Short Forest. The title of a song. I should play Toads of the Short Forest, right? Shall we hear it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Toads of the Short Forest. Let's see. Where would that go down to T? Toads of the Short Forest. There it is. It's from Weasel Rip My Flesh, a very good album, 1970.
Whoa.
That was fucking awesome. I haven't heard that in decades. Wow.
That was amazing.
Yeah. Wasn't that good, Alyssa?
Yes. Whoa.
I'll get rid of the sound.
That's very hard to
get rid of that background sound.
In a different tempo.
Yeah.
Now, is that subatomic? Would isotopes, would that be the anarchy of isotopic reality? If you got all these different doubled, tripled subatomic particles, rhythms, rates, different rates,
right.
That's the isotopic reality he's playing there. The chaos in the universe before supersugar. Remember, we balanced the H197 isotope. The supersugar formula is C, carbon 122, H197, oxygen 98.5. That's the formula that the I cell sneaks in through. And we balance the isotope, stabilize the hydrogen isotope. And Zappa said that hydrogen is the most plentiful substance element in the universe, but that should be corrected to stupidity is the most prevalent element in the universe. But our substance, the I cell, balances the universe, which is what Ion said last week.
No.
That's amazing.
That's pre-ionic. And Ion said last week, I said, what do you basically do? He says, we come in and we establish a balance. So they balance pi and everything. They balance that chaos of the isotopes. So we can declare that song as one of the hymns of iondom because it's talking about the matter before the I cell. So,
wow.
Right. Awesome, eh? This laboratory is making many discoveries tonight.
It's like la Marseillaise of iondom.
Say it again. You got to get off your damn speakerphone. Stop masturbating and get back on the fucking chair so we can hear what you're saying.
Yes, magnitude. I said.
Yes.
Allons enfants de la patrie. That's the new Marseillaise of iondom.
Did you say a French phrase you said?
Marianne.
She's some French yet.
Yeah, she threw some French at it, eh?
The start of La Marseillaise. Allons enfants de la patrie.
The Marseillaise. Okay, I got you. All right.
Marianne. Saying.
Corbin put a bug in Roxy. You know, did you guys? You probably didn't hear. You don't hear my. Did you hear the clicks on my phone? You didn't hear that, right? When you were listening to music.
No.
You wouldn't notice that.
No.
Fucking Corbin called me during the song and interrupted the song for me. Let's see if he's still there. Is Corbin there? No, he's not even there. Like, I guess he called me. His phone's broken or something. I don't know.
When you guys,
okay, so that was really
quick. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
When you guys are listening, when you guys are listening to the music, just a very technical question. Are you hearing it well? Because through my phone, like the way that the telephone, like the cellular tower are working or whatever, it's just not very clear. So I'm wondering how to get better sound. How do you guys?
You do it through the computer, right, Bert? Like I do it through Skype. My phone isn't as good as the Skype, so I'll shift over to Skype, which I'm hooked into with the station.
Oh, okay.
And it's clearer.
Oh, okay. That's
what do you say, Bert? Do you have an answer for her?
The Skype is better. I'm through Skype.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm through Skype.
Okay, sounds good. That's good to know. Because I definitely
sound.
There's so much music and frequency stuff going on. It's just for the love of what's happening, like sonically. I just want to hear it a little better. But yeah, cool.
Yeah, I
thanks.
agree.
But yeah,
And,
that was amazing.
I have not heard that in a long time. But now the thing is, do you know how to Skype in? Do you want me to send Bill's instructions to you?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I guess that would be helpful. I can look around and see.
Okay, I can post them on. Somebody take over the verbal while I go find the Bill thing.
Maybe you just play another groovy rant.
Yeah.
There's one in which she's talking about thought and the word affecting you.
Okay. Yes, I have that right here.
You just let it play. It's a long one, but we can hear just until you are back or whatever.
Okay, good. Here we go.
This book takes you back to the root of words, because the meaning of words haven't changed. Although some people speak of dead languages, there's no such thing as a dead language, because you have the words in this language. So they're not dead. You just don't know where they came from. But these words from ancient days are affecting people today. The people are going to have to make a research in words. I know I'm representing music. Music is a language, and my music speaks of everything. So in order to understand the music, you would have to know some of the things that I have studied, which help me to project myself as I am doing. For instance, if you're studying something about Bach or Brahms and Beethoven, you need to study their life too. So actually, I don't consider myself as having a life, but I do consider myself as having studied. So therefore, you need to know some of the books that I studied, because a lot of things that I found out, people don't know about it. So we come down to words again, as to how they're affecting people today. Take the word convict. Convicts get convicted. And it also moves over into conviction. Now when you get to that word, it moves somewhere else. Because a person can have a conviction about something, and they got an idea about it, you see. So now, therefore, when you have words that move two ways on you, then you have to be careful. Because here you have this word convicted, conviction. Now this word conviction moves over, if you have an idea of something, you got an impression of something. You have knowledge concerning something. Now an impression moves over into image, a reflection. Well, reflection, a person can reflect on something, they're thinking about it. The reflection moves over into image. All these things affect people. It doesn't matter whether you know about them or not. It's just like if you are on a lake and somebody throws a large stone in the lake. It doesn't matter whether you know about it or not. It's going to affect the boat you're in. It'll do something to the lake. Now, conviction, idea, impression, reflection, image, knowledge. Ideas of thought, too. Now, when you get to this word thought, you put an H on it, and you got a word that the ancient Egyptians used. You didn't get away from that word. It's still here today. Now, this word can move over into, that's where the word thought came from. This word moves over into two things, like the oath. An oath is a word, a promise, or something of the sort. So now this is affecting people, this ancient Egyptian word. The best thing to do is to get in some ancient Egyptian books, study up on Egyptian words, because they're affecting you. They're affecting your life, or your death, or whatsoever is about you. Now that's just one word. Now there are many other words. Some words are dead words, you might say. They go a certain way and then they stop. They're just like streets. Where you go down the street, you can keep on going on that street all the way to New York. The highway can lead you all the way there. You get on another street, and then you run into a dead end. That's the way words are. So words are set up like in a certain formula. All religions are set up a certain way with a set of words, just like the New Testament. It's based on words. They say the word was made flesh, so everything is about the word. But it's a set formula. You have the Lord's Prayer set up a certain way. Forgive us as we forgive our enemies, but if you don't forgive your enemies, then you're not going to get forgiven. So if you sit up and you say something like that, that's your creed. Something happens to you, and some person do something you don't like, and you don't forgive them, and then you do something wrong and you want forgiveness, you're not going to get it. So then you have to be careful what kind of prayers you're praying, because it's a very serious thing. It's just with humans. For instance, like if you plant a tomato seed in the ground, that's what you're going to get back. Now if you go out and say a particular formula of words, even if you're just pretending, it doesn't make any difference. You're going to get those words back. So the whole thing about it, a lot of people on this planet are saying words that they don't mean. Maybe words for money, words for pleasure, for other things. But it's a very dangerous game to play, to fool around with words, because words, just like material that you take to build a house, and however you use that material in a certain way, the house is going to shape to be that way. Now, you could give two people, some constructors of a building, the same materials and want them to build a house. And they're going by the way that the architects have that blueprint. You have to have a blueprint. And here's a person come on this planet, a little baby. Now, a person is just like a house. They begin to be built. They come up from a small zone up, and they're growing, but it's a blueprint for them. So somebody set the blueprint for them. And just like this country, it had a blueprint set. And the blueprint didn't really include black people in it, because it was set up for the good people. It was set up by the good people, for the good people. So it comes down to a point that you have to see that words are very important. If it had just been set up and it didn't say good people, then it would have been set up for black people. But it said good people, and that left them out, because good people referred to the white people who set it up, and no black people signed it. So when you don't sign something, then you're not part of it. They were in an unfortunate condition where they couldn't sign it. But that doesn't make any difference. You have laws upon this planet. And man have to have some kind of laws, because otherwise it's going to complete chaos with all these people on this planet. Without some kind of laws, even if they're bad laws, it would be complete chaos. So then you have a particular set of laws. Now, you take like this so-called, the Bible. People talk about gospel. That's another word you have to watch, because it comes from, you look at a good etymology to tell you that the word wasn't originally that way. It was written like this: God's spell. Now, you know what a spell is. It's something like a charm, a curse, or something like voodoo. But that's what it says. God's spell, gospel, gospel. So then all you have to do is to get a good etymology. Look in there. If you can get black as etymology, you'd be all right, because black as etymology got a lot of things in that. It's very concise. And it's published in England. England has a lot of books that you can't get in America. France too. Germany too. The wisdom is scattered all over the world. The Chinese have some. The Japanese got some. Everyone has part of the wisdom. Therefore, unless you can go to every country and read every book, you'll never know anything. Unless someone comes that's sent by the one who messed all the books up anyway and was taught by them, which I was taught by the one who messed the books up. So therefore, all I have to do is get a book, and I look in there, and what I already know is in there. The only reason I'm doing that because I don't want people to think that I'm talking. I want to be a ruler on this planet or anything. I want to be a god or anything, because God made people, and I'd be ashamed to say I made them. So they can't get the opinion to say that I'm God, because they embarrass me a lot. I don't like to get embarrassed. Now, here's a book called Ark of Bones by Hank Dumas. Now, Hank Dumas was one of the most unique writers that America's ever produced. And he was supposedly killed by a policeman. He's done a lot of things for black people. He's done a lot of things for this country. He went to the Army, and he was teaching a government experimental school. So when you have a country like that, by someone who really is doing something worthwhile, and they get shot down by a policeman or by anybody. It's really ridiculous. It doesn't make sense for someone who's irreplaceable like him. Nobody like him ever existed in the white or black race to have to meet that kind of fate and be cut off so soon. Because, so you see, you have a lot of things come to people and they don't protect things. This is one of the things they didn't protect. Now, here's 2 books out by him, Poetry for My People. When you read this, you can see that he really loved black people, and he's writing about them from down on the bottom. Here's another about, stories about black people, using dialect and other things that are close to them. Well, anyway, that's the person that you should investigate his works. Henry Dumas, Ark of Bones, and Poetry for My People. This book is just, the reason I mention it because there's music in his stories and there's music in his poetry. So when I'm talking about music, I'm not just talking about musician playing an instrument. Anything is music. If you take like a beautiful picture that an artist paints, that's music. Anything that has symmetry to it, and when you look at it, it makes you feel it, is music. Because that's what music is all about, feeling. Now, look up the word hue, because some folks call themselves humans. Because I said you got something called man, and you got something called human. And then when you got words like that, if you're human, you need to know what you are. Human. That's the Egyptian word too. Hue is symbolic of the sun. It was a word the Egyptians used for the name of one of the sun god, Hue, man. So now people are calling themselves human, and some of them call themselves mankind. Some of them call themselves man. Now each one of those words mean a different thing. So you have to find out now what different people are around you. Mankind. Anytime you see some prefixes and different things on words, it changes the word. And you got mankind. That's something, well, like man-like. Not really man, you see. Human. That's not man either. It's got something else over in it. So now you have to search up the word human, search up the word man, see what man really is. Now I told you that the Bible says man is filthy and abominable. That's one of his definitions. So when you go out and you look at the skid row, you see men down on the bottom, and they're filthy and abominable. You can see that they're just fulfilling the Bible. And in the city you go in, you can find some men that's filthy and abominable all over the world. Well, they're busy being man, the definition of it. Everyone have their part to play in the Bible. So it's not a matter they want to be like that. That book is really worse than dynamite. It's influencing everybody's destiny on this planet. Although some people, some intellectuals have tried to burn the book up and get rid of it. Hitler tried to burn it up. They felt it was really affecting human beings. They were quite right. But it didn't do any good. They're gone. The book is still here. And that book has been here for thousands of years. I know when I first went to college, well, they used to be teaching to be an atheist or something like that. They have good reason to teach you that. They had no proof there's any God or anything. But then I started thinking, well, since that book is all over the world, that if there is a God and the book doesn't represent him, why doesn't he stop it? And I began to wonder about it. So, well, maybe this book is very cleverly written in an ignorant manner to fool people. It would definitely fool intellectuals. If it wasn't logical, they would get the book and say, this isn't anything. But so I took a red pencil and marked through the book, just like I would any other book. I didn't regard it as sacred. I wanted to find out what it meant. And I found out what it meant. I found out that it's affecting everybody on the planet. And it's so simple, a little child can understand it. That's why the intellectuals didn't catch it, because they be looking up at great minds and all that, and they miss the other kind of mathematics that's affecting them deeply. Like people have conquered space, you might say, to a certain degree, conquered the sea, everything. They've done everything but conquer death, which is still the main enemy. I remember reading something in a Muslim paper where Muhammad said that man's greatest enemy is death. And I said, that's the greatest truth he ever told. Right. That's the enemy. So then You have to find out what is that. Now, death is a very strange thing because just before I came here, there was a friend of mine in Philadelphia that died 3 times, officially died in the hospital. Each time, one time they took his heart out and massaged it, brought him back. Next time they stuck needles in his heart and brought him back. And he came back 3 times. So, well, something happened there. How could he do something like that? Well, he said he didn't know what happened to him except that he'd be asking me, well, why did I have to come back? What am I supposed to do? I don't know what to do. I actually conquered death, but why did the Creator send me back? And he walks around saying that quite often to me. But he said he was somewhere where it was a door and it was cold. And he stood before this door 6 hours. Couldn't get in. He couldn't leave. Finally, he came back. So now you have a lot of cases where people die and come back. Well, I told him that he was so bad that death didn't want him, which is probably the truth. Because he came right back telling me about he hadn't done anything wrong, and all he does is wrong. So now here's another word. I hope you wrote the word hue down. Here's another word, way. Now you got something in that Bible that says, I'm the way. In ancient days, the ancients like to use an H on a lot of things. Something like way. If I spell it the way they would spell it, W-A-Y. The way they would spell that would be W-H-A-H-Y-H. They like to put Y's in things to make it very complicated. Like, for instance, if they were going to spell the word earth, and listen to this form, they would write it E-H-A-H-R-H-T-H-H-H. And that would be kind of confusing. But nevertheless, to show you the way they did, because you're part of those people. You're not really modern or nothing like that, or contemporary. You can forget it. You're part of those people back there. So you wouldn't be here if you weren't part of them. If you cut them out of your life, you wouldn't be here, because part of them is sitting right up in here. Now, you have to face that fact. Now, you see how difficult they are. E-A-R-T-H. But so if you study hieroglyphics, the other ancient languages, you have to remember that about these different, about that H, which is very important. Now, that's way. But now we're taking and turning it backwards. It'll be Y-A-W. Y-A-H-W-H-Y-A-H-W-E-H. Now they would do things, for instance, like this H could be written like that, or it can be written like that, because they were fond of play on words. So if you weren't really schooled in the way they did things, you wouldn't be able to. But so anytime you see a word, you could put the E behind it or E in front of it. And so if somebody came up and didn't know the code, they see the words up there, they wouldn't know what it meant. And that's the way the educated class of people did. And the priests, they always wrote something that everybody couldn't understand. So now you got Yahweh. Now, that came from this word, way. That's what like said. They said, Christ said, I'm the way. Now you look in some Hebrew books, and in some other, you see this Yahweh. Now Yahweh is on their play on this word, way. So you have to come to a knowledge of different things like that. Different words stretch out. Now here you got something else. It moves on you all kind of ways. And people be worshiping these things and don't know what they're worshiping. Now here's something. Now how many vowels you got in the English language? They say you got 5 and sometimes Y. But if you get over to some more books, you see you got A, E, I, O, U, Y, and H. Now, why didn't they teach you that there's 7 vowels? You see, a lot of things have been left out your education. There are 7 vowels. Now, you find that in a book called The Secret Doctrine, and you find it in some more books, too, where it tells you about the 7 vowels. And they take that. Vowels could really be interpreted as the word of God's. Because why? You give somebody a vowel, you got word. Now, El is one of the oldest names for God. So you got God's word. vowels. So you see, another play on words have been enforced upon you. Now, if you investigate very closely, you find that U and V is the same thing. Now see, that's where the word Jehovah came from. It came from the vowels, God's word. Now see, when you start finding out things like that, you begin to be very careful upon what you say you believe in, because it's just like if you go to church and they give you some pledge cards. Now, a pledge means a vow, and you put your quarter in there, whatever you're going to put in there, and then you sign your name. Now, when you sign your name on that pledge card, you're really taking a vow to follow whatever creed that church stands for. It doesn't matter whether you know that or not, but if you take it and you don't follow it, you get some punishments on you, because you've given your word that you're going to follow it. So it's not an innocent thing to belong to a church. And, I mean, even if it's the wrongest church in the world, and they got their creeds there, and the government is recognizing them and give the preacher a certificate or his license to preach, and he has the right to go out there, so he set his creed out there. Now, you might not read it. It makes no difference. If you join that church, sign your name, put your money in there. Of course, when you start putting your money in there, they're going to put you out anyway. But you're putting your money in there to make the vow binding. And as long as you put the money in there, the vow is binding. But then when you fall down on your money out of the church, you get kicked out of the church. So now, I'm telling you this because, like, in my music, it might seem a long ways from music, but along with education in schools, I was also educated by the creator of the universe, which is not everybody possibly not supposed to believe that. It made no difference to me. Nevertheless, I know a lot of things that people don't know, and no man taught me. Neither a white man nor a black man taught me these things. I thought they already knew. But then I came to find out they don't know. So now, here's another word that's very important. I mentioned before, it's Y-H-S-T. That's a Y-S. And I say you pronounce that as wise. Now, if you look around in some art shops and other places, you'll see a U-H-S-T, and you see V-H-S-T, and you see a I-H-S-T. All this is very important. It's not this mumbo-jumbo. Up on that cross, you got I-H-S-T, and you got a Y-H-S-T, and you got a U-H-S-T. You see? Now, why keep changing? Why not just keep one symbol? It's because all these things are affecting people. It's done mathematically. Now, an I is equal to Y. You see it in the word by. B-I. It's pronounced just like, so therefore an I is equal to a Y. Of course, they can change it. And then if you look over in the, well, you got your V right there. See, like that. You take that, and now you got your V. So it's easy to change it over into a U. Things are done mathematically like that. Now this word, S-H-U-T, shut, that means closed. Now you've heard that the Bible is a sealed book. That's what that means. S-H-U-T, shut, closed. Like a judge said, case closed. That was a German old man, so case closed. Ever since then, man been getting crucified. And, you know, he goes out and crucifies the brothers and everything because he's trapped by this shut. Now, that means they can't do anything different. Now, this word shut moves over into S-H-O-O-T because, you know, like, you can spell goose like that. Although it looks like Gus, but that U, you see, is therefore 2 O's is equal to a U. So we put it up there. Shoot. Now, if you go out in some places like the Deep South, other places where black people have been too affected by education or what people, sophistication, and if something happens that they don't like, they'll say shoot instead of sometimes they'll say shucks. Oh shucks. But then sometimes they'll say shoot. And that shoot moves right over into, like if you see a tree and it's got a shoot out there, it's a branch. Now you keep on looking at that book, it speaks about the man of the branch. If you get this book I told you about called The Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop, he'll tell you it's all about the man of the branch, Two Babylons. That's a very important book. It's telling you all kind of things. Now here's the part where you got life, biology. That's concerning life. Now you know bi means two, so we put number 2 up there. So now, here you got this word once. One. That's the two, that's the one. Now, you got something in this, what they call a good book, say man has become like one of us. And that's when the trouble started, when he became like one. Right there. Now, here you got something where they say the Son of God came and said, I'm our Father one. And he got crucified. So he's trying to show you what one meant. That you get killed by that word one. Adam and Eve got messed up with it. And then the Son of God, Christ, came along, he got messed up with it. But man still doesn't understand that he got to stay out of this word one. Now right here, I told you this IHST. That means is, but it also means one. That's the one there too. Once. It's phonetic. Once. See? Now, so you got the case of once. And what does once mean? It means the past. Like you tell somebody, well, once I was such and such a thing, and once I had, you're talking about something that's gone by. So once always means something that's gone by, or something that's past, something passed away. Now here all these people is dying, and then they come and say, so-and-so passed away. Now they speak of these people passing away. They speak of something else that's passing away too. Time. They said time passed away. A person passed away. Now see, so they're over in the same equation. Now this X equal time. T-I-M-E. And X equal Christ. You can prove that by Christmas, because they say Xmas. So now, here you got a case where time and Christ, this X means time, X means Christ. So then you have to watch it when you jump over that X. Now X also means unknown. They use an algebra and other with unknown quality. But so you see, it moves out to mean a lot of things. Like a person doesn't know his name or something. A person can't write, make an X. So this X stands for a lot of things. But I say, you have to watch that X. Now once. Now when you jump over into the trias, you jump over into duality. When you jump over into duality, then you jump over into something that's stated over in the Bible, that the secrets of wisdom are double to that which is. Now I never heard anybody, scholars, anybody else mention that particular line, but it's in the Bible, that the secrets of wisdom are double to that which is. Now what does it tell you about this double? It's got a two-way thing going on you. It's saying one thing, and it means another thing, and it's warning you about that duality in that. You notice this Christ was speaking in parables. Now, if you come to teach somebody, if I came up here and I talked to you on in parables, you wouldn't understand anything, because you might catch a little light, but it would be better if, just like I'm doing this, I'm showing you what it is. That's what a teacher's supposed to do. If someone comes and teaching you in parables, it means they don't really want you to know. And it's stated like that. Well, it's given to you to know, but the rest of them know. So then something was being set up for humanity that was over into a mystery thing. And the reason they wanted to build a mystery thing, because it was all set up to kill people. Now, you start reading that book in a way where you're looking at it from an just read it like you read a textbook. You get a textbook, mark in it, look at it. You have to regard it as that, because it is a textbook on how to die gracefully and meekly and forgive all your enemies. That's what he was trying to show people. Now you do that, and you go to heaven. And so then you had a whole race of people, like black people. And so more people have joined the fold now. All of them trying to be like Jesus. Feels like you had black people for a long time saying, I want to be more and more like Jesus. And you judge a tree by the fruit, and you look at the way they are today, completely divided in all kind of ways. If you get that book and look at it real good, it will tell you that the disciples turned the world upside down. And you know what upside down is.
Well, that was very interesting. And we have here...
Yes,
and
yes.
Yes, we have Jermaine here and Alice. Alyssa. Yeah, go ahead.
We were talking about that bands, rock bands, and Zappa and Sonra, they didn't have a band, they have orchestras. And Sonra called his orchestra Archestra, like the Ark of the Covenant. And their environment is not only about the music. They were very aware of everything that affects people, substances, words, and frequencies, the music. And for example, he says his music speaks to everything. And Zappa always joked that the music affects the atmosphere and the innocent air molecules.
Let me say something here. Did you hear? Roxy, did he say the seventh vial, V-I-A-L, or was he saying vowel or something else?
Vowel. He was saying vowel.
Vowel,
the seventh vowel. Oh, okay, because we were doing the seventh vial with Ion a few hours
similar
ago.
to the vial. Yes.
Yes. And the other thing is he said music is not just sound. He's using the word music the way Frank used it. Frank says information, not knowledge, blah, blah, not this, not that. And then he goes, music is the best, but you don't know what music is or it's all-encompassing. So he's using the same all-encompassing meaning, which means we're musicians.
Yes, and this
we are a new song.
Expanding of, like you expand on the meaning of art, they're expanding on the meaning of what we consider music. Like speech is another type of music, as I am saying, you're composing the new song, because speech
I made a very radical statement on the latest YouTube that she posted about art. I mean, I end up so crazy in my abstraction. I said the police squads that killed the 43 students in Mexico were art. So you have to listen to how I got to that extreme statement. But I could say music, according to Sun Ra. I could say it's music. It's a special word that needs to be wiped out. He was wiping out special words.
You go beyond Zappa and Sun Ra in the affecting of the environment. They still thought they have a band or an orchestra. You see, it goes beyond what you can affect as an individual. Expands into the atmosphere, expands into the
environment. This. You know how Frank said he says he doesn't plan his solos. Well, I show up. I don't even plan an audience. I will perform without an audience. I've done this show without audiences.
That is true.
Bob.
I don't even show up. I perform without showing up.
When Corbin was calling in, Bob, it made me think of that old archive of you doing that video, like public television access program. And you're like,
which one? The one where I'm running around? I'm running around, hiding?
You kind of were running around, yeah. But then, like, was Jerry doing sound? Was he the one? And he, like, calls in later in the show and, like, pretends to be a call-in. And I'm just
right.
talking about just talking about your audience or your like unplanned audience. It just makes me think of that because like even back then it was like this sort of Manipian like I'm affecting, but I don't know that I'm affecting, and it was just like this great sort of like it didn't matter who was listening.
Well, there's the Alan Seinfeld thing. We're on TV. And I'm leaning over and whispering to Alan so the audience can't hear him. How's that for a broadcast?
There are these two aspects of Zappa and Sonra and Bob are doing on the one side for them it's like very important to show hidden ground, and on the other ground it's like have the power to control and to program the environment. And there's this expansion of what we thought was art or music. It goes beyond that. And that's what Ion is saying is the next step in the octet. That
yes,
we are not going to be limited to science or artist works, it's limited creations. We are expanding to move in different worlds, connect all these worlds, and create our kingdoms in ways that, like gods, that we are not really aware, but Bob is sort of showing us what he has done through history, putting all these things to explain the plot, the story of the becoming from the fall to the completion.
Yeah. And you were talking about the Matrix, Bob, with Ion, and how that was so, like, you know, obviously more limited, but a similar sort of understanding of what you and Carolyn, and how you're ushering in this new, like, way to what they metaphorically say Zion or whatever. But
yes,
Bob, Roxy, I'm getting what you're saying there.
Did you, Bert and Melissa did not hear what we broadcast from Ion? Let me say this thing. They did not hear what I played many hours ago, Bert. I played how we got more biographical details about Ophanau, how he worked with Tiberius and then Emperor Commodus, which is in the first line of Finney's Wig, and then a later guy, and then some stuff.
No way.
So guess who? Now listen to this. It ends up with Victor Emmanuel II, the Italian king in World War I or II. I can't remember which. And then it ends with Berlusconi, who is the P2 guy, and now we will read Licio Gelli, a guy that Zappa talks about, Licio Gelli. The P2 society, Berlusconi seemed to be not involved with it 30 years ago. But he starts to enter politics in 92, and there's a TV series called 1992 about Italy in that key year, and then they're going to do 1993 in the next 10-episode series. But it's about the rise of Berlusconi. Well, if you read my diaries, you'll see the important role of Licio Gelli and Berlusconi. He's not mentioned. But Ion knows. And so Ion says, we have your little buddy here, Bob. And I sort of got the tone. I said, you mean some friends of mine in the Mafia? He says, no, not the Mafia. Now, none of you guys would say Mafia. I mean, that's how shocking I can be, right? But someone starts talking about Bob's personal friends, and I go, oh, you mean Billy in the Mafia? And he says, no. And he goes, Berlusconio, and he plays with the word. But eventually I realized it's Berlusconi, and he's going to bring it right up to today, because Berlusconi is important, because as I said earlier, he never got nailed. As the P2 guys got in trouble, including Licio Gelli, Berlusconi rode above it all. So he turns out to be a heavy in the P2 because he's still around up till now. Now he's gone. But he ran the media. He was the owner of all the TV stations and created a cult, like the movie Wild Palms. So, Roxy, you were going to say something, then I'm going to do Licio Gelli. Go ahead.
Yes, that you use this type of archetypes since the fall, because Ion says, according to where the people are, they have to use different types of archetypes and different types of words. Like now, you're using the Matrix because that's an archetype that is familiar to many people, and they can then recognize it and somehow then start to understand the ionics and the levels of reality and the hidden ground that is behind. Because otherwise, how do you explain what you have been retrieving for years from Ion? It's a way to approach people, something they know. They have seen that in the media, in the TV, and then they can start.
Hey, Bob, I have a question.
Bob?
I have a question
but
that
let me respond to this. Before we get to your question, let me respond to what she said. People should wonder. They played Sun Ra, and they're not even acknowledging what he said. Are we talking about? No, we're not talking about. You said a nice speech there, Sun Ra. I can understand you winging it, but yes, go ahead, Alyssa.
So I feel like the creator body came up. I don't remember when, but I feel are you
Ion?
Yeah, so maybe that would be like an advancement of the 5 bodies. Like we've had, we talk about the hexad or the hexadic, the septad, and the octad. But could one of those new ones be labeled the creator body?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. When you have the merger of the 5 bodies, and then you're in the hexadic, you're being creative in the hexadic, but you're subject to the external outer kingdom turmoil. But when that subsides and you move into septad, I think we could call the septad the creator body. And we could then run it by Ion, and he'll correct it or agree with it. But, yes, the creator body is just plain creation. You're not adjusting to your different kingdoms in that. You've merged it all. You're in power. You formed your own band, and you're using the word orchestra. And Sun Ra's got nothing on you.
But then you want to say in the last video about the obsolescence of art and
that
the creativity, this extreme creativity, is actually a disservice now.
Yes. Yeah. People are in what I call producer mania. They were in the disservice of consumer mania, passively. Now they're hyperactive. That's why no one will listen to anybody. They have no poise. They're too busy trying to figure out how they're doing in their own creativity. Neufeld's a prime case of that. Very hard to get Dave to relax.
And I like Sun Ra because he was even dressing as a pharaoh. Like already seeing what's
coming. He was what?
And dressing as a pharaoh.
No, it's very good what he's saying. Spiral. He was in the spiral? No, it's pretty neat what he was saying there. He was ahead of his time in some ways. But I've never listened to any of his lectures. And if I listened to that 10 years ago, it wouldn't have meant much to me. It would have been puny. But now hearing it after studying the Bible and many things Ian said, his speech is a lot richer. I appreciate him more.
Yes.
But he died. Yes. You realize I'm the only philosopher? Well, maybe Jesus did it too, but I'm the only philosopher who ain't fucking dying. And they fucking shot at me, and it went right through me. The fucking bullet went right through me. Because Ian says, you're protected, Bob.
Oh my goodness.
I thought he went back to his planet.
Yes.
I think that was
what
Ian said.
Yes, I think he said that.
Yes, he did.
He went back there to prepare them for us.
So the stuff that he was talking about with the words and Toth and stuff, Bob, it made me think that language is also a hologram. Have you covered that? Is that an old topic that I'm just kind of connecting now?
Just before you say that, did you guys hear him say the word guff? I thought I heard guff at one point. Did you guys hear that?
Mm-mm.
No, I didn't hear it.
In passing?
No.
Nobody heard it. Okay. Ian has not said words or holograms. McLuhan has said that, but not Ion. To say words or holograms, McLuhan. That's more McLuhan's area.
Okay. It seems like the language, though, beyond just the words, like the attached meaning creates more of like a web of like a environment or like a hologram, like a shared membrane that people can have meaning, shared meaning or whatever.
Yeah, McLuhan said that language is the most powerful medium or the greatest medium. And therefore the books, the bulldozer, all the different technologies are fragments of the word, aspects of the word. But that's the same thing Ion says. Ion says the words are the root of your power. But Ion goes deeper and says there are tonalities beneath the words and beneath the atomic cellular level. So Ion takes us further than McLuhan, but McLuhan went pretty far by saying all technologies were subsets of the act of language.
Because I'm trying to think, some of the stuff, I was listening kind of passively because I was trying to figure out Skype, but some of the stuff that Sun Ra was saying kind of alluded to the any two or more of, like, the atom thing we were talking about, the isotope. It kind of had some similar, like, thinking of language as an environment and what isotopes are doing on an environmental scale, and how the I cell is music, and how that kind of is all coming together with language as well.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. I was just trying to connect the double meaning of language with the hologramic, state, but yet words being power, and kind of being able to sort of have that sort of post-five-body view of everything.
Well, if the way Joyce wrote Finning is Wake, you would take the description of the atom as electron, proton, neutron. Think of that as a grammatical structure, like verb, subject, object. Joyce would see the grammar, the linguistic grammar in subjects that apparently had nothing to do with language, like science describing matter. So yeah, grammars and linguistic structures are permeating everything, and you can take a grammatical view of everything. That's what McLuhan's tetrad is, an update of grammar.
Okay. Cool.
Now, why emphasize? But then that's a literate division of words. The Aboriginals, they danced the words. They didn't even maybe enunciate it that clearly. They have a different relationship, so you have to include that in the hologram. You dance with the hologram as the hologram shrinks, and you get holeopathic.
I was in Phoenix at the Musical Instrument Museum, and there was an exhibition where these old tribes would hit a drum, and it would resonate a certain vibration, and it was just like, Roxy, do you know of those slat drums or those slit drums that are really primitive, but they have, like, little different tonalities that come out of them? Anyway, so then they would...
Let me see if she got knocked off. Maybe she got knocked off. Let's see. No, she should be there. What, did you go to the bathroom, Roxy? She may have gone to the bathroom.
Anyway, so
when she gets back, ask that question again. Ask that question again when she comes back.
Okay, I'll see if she's familiar with it. But these drums, when you hit the slit, they offer different tones, and then different tones would mean different things for the tribe. Like an auditory tone would mean, this type of attack is coming, or this other sort of thing would mean. They had a wide variety of them, not just like one, like we have a siren, or, we hear these frequencies that aren't words and we kind of attach some sort of meaning. But there's how music and how these tonalities can be a language that a tribe can kind of gather around.
That's the ratio.
Yeah.
That's the ratios. Okay. Different situations, different contexts.
Yeah.
That's what pre-literate people are very sensitive about, that those nuances. The literate person isn't. And
that's what I feel like, there's an awakening of that with the I cell within yourself,
Yeah. It balances your senses. It gets you into a pretty conscious synesthesia. It's not blatant synesthesia, but it's a subtle synesthesia. You were just saying what was it? These ratios. The pre-literate people, they don't analyze what structure is made of like literate people do. They try to figure out what it looks like, what's the subatomic particles and all that. Whereas the pre-literate people dances the meaning. They don't state it or make an equation out of it. They don't have a definition. So they're dancing. If you get on a club, I danced on New Year's Eve in this place, and you're up against other people constantly changing who you're dancing beside. and you change yourself in relation to them as you dance by them. You know,
right.
So that is pre-literate society, moving around, sensitive to the environment.
Yeah.
And then music, you know, a musical group with instruments, they've specialized into sound-making objects, and they don't dance. But then when rock and roll came in, you started to have dancing. I don't think there was dancing in the swing singers, and you know, you didn't have the blacks doing their choral gesturing in the background like you do in the 1670s.
Right.
There's no dancing in the background of Benny Goodman's band, right? But then with youth culture after World War II, dancing came in as part of the singing.
Right. Huh.
That's never been said before. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, Elvis was radical because he danced.
Yeah,
that's what they couldn't take.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that relates to how. Oh shit! What was it? I was trying to remember something you guys were saying. I was listening in the archive. Something was discussed about how, you know, Frank was so aware of more than just the music. You know, but it wasn't just the visual. It was the beyond. It was the movement. It was more than just
body language.
The sound.
He's very aware
body
of
language.
Body language.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, in his interviews, he's watching the body language, and he will comment on it if he's feeling aggressive. He'll respond to the interviewer's body language. But Dave Wally, who did the first biography of Zappa, used to say there was a bit of a Puritan part of Frank. He said, Frank doesn't dance. Frank won't dance. But subsequently, we did see Frank dance here and there a little bit, but he basically wasn't a dancer. I mean, that was my explanation of why I didn't become a musician. I was a good dancer. So I danced. I wouldn't want to stand and play an instrument. I'm fucking lazy. These guys are going to make all kinds of great music that I can dance to. That's a lot more slack than standing up there and fucking staying on note, on chord, on discipline. Fucking hard work.
You're right.
I took the path of least resistance.
Yeah, exactly.
I was such a good dancer. It was a different world in Paris, you know, the Edith Piaf, Charles Aznavour, and these other fucking stupid singers, but you dance a little bit. I remember I'd be about 1932, 10 years old. We were dancing someplace, and this other little kid comes up and he says, "Man, you're a good dancer." I didn't even know how to dance. I didn't think dancing. I don't know what I was doing. But this kid says, "Man, you're a good dancer," and I was shocked. Well, I don't know how to dance. But the kid picked up on I had some kind of natural response appropriate to the music, probably. That's what it was, you know. Whereas he felt, well, I'm stiff. He couldn't. He was listening to the music. I used to say the same thing. When I later played hockey, they asked me to coach. I said, I don't know the rules. Well, he said, you don't know the rules. I don't know what they are. I just run around, you know, slapping the puck. And so I couldn't teach the kids how to be a hockey player. I really am. Ion's pretty accurate to say I go around pretty fucking empty-headed, you know. And what we do here, or we're talking to Ion, is dancing. Verbal dancing. If you understand that with Ion, you loosen up.
Mm-hmm. Or mental jazz.
Yes, dancing is expressing a frequency.
Dancing is responding to frequencies. And McLuhan defined ESP as mental nonverbal dance. Nonverbal mental gesture. If you put mental and body together, mental gesture, or ESP is nonverbal gesture. Mental nonverbal. You have to include both. I don't like the word mental because people go for that as a mind thing.
Right.
But so I think mental dance, I think that's too cliche. That makes people think still mental. But if you say mental nonverbal gesture instead of dance, that's a new way of saying it, the same thing, but it might make you think more of what ESP is.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Even there, the subtlety of changes of words make a huge difference.
Yeah. That was one of my greatest compliments. Man, you're a good dancer. That really, made me feel confident, even though I didn't know the content of what it was or what I had done. Key moments in your life when somebody, this is powerful words, that you remember things someone said to you. It might, still piss you off.
Yeah.
These powerful moments of communication that stay with you.
Right.
It's like Zappa's influences.
Yeah. All those, that's what, good point. He was remembering all those particular days that he spent with somebody in a canteen one day. Maybe they stole some stuff from a canteen and he remembers the person.
Did you guys finish that list yet?
No, we're going to do it next. When Roxy gets back. I don't know what happened to her. She probably went to the store to buy some cigarettes. Did you go buy some cigarettes, Roxy?
Hey, Bob.
No, I'm just listening. But
Hey, Bob.
Okay, well, what's her name? Alyssa had a question for you. What was the object you were asking about?
Before, I was wondering if you if you had seen or heard of the slit drum, the old tribal drum, where it was just like a simple drum where it was a piece of wood and they'd cut out a slit in the center and they'd hit it and there'd be the different tonalities.
no, I know similar instruments, but not that one in particular.
So it was. I was just bringing it up earlier. Yeah.
714. You were a male voice saying something?
Oh, it's Clyde.
Yes. Oh, we haven't heard from Clyde. Long time. Ben came to What Youth a few months ago, like you, Clyde. He hung out for a few weeks, and then we just heard last week he killed himself. So, Clyde, you on that path? You come and then you leave. What?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Good. Well, where have you been? How can you explain your absence? Ian was telling me how people come in and go out and drift away and come back. Well, why would you come back?
Why would I come back? Because life is a roller coaster.
Are you here for sustenance, for succor, for nutrition? Are you here for something to abet your being?
I don't know what the fuck life is right now, Bob.
That's what we like to hear. You have to come back here to get cleared up again. That's right. That is a common returner's complaint. I don't know what the fuck's going on, Bob. You try to survive without us. It won't work, Clyde. Welcome back to the right place.
Thank you, Bob.
So you have something you would like to present to us? We have a panel here. We have a committee. We have a jury.
I was just listening for a little bit, just seeing what's going on. I actually tried calling in a few months ago, and I remember them saying that Ion was gone or something for a while, and I just don't really know much about that.
Yeah, Ion hasn't been here since September 12th or about.
What's going on?
But he was here tonight. He spoke for one 2-second point. He spoke tonight.
Really?
He said hi or something.
What's been going on?
Well, I've spent a lot of time with Ion, and I'm playing the recording. See, you don't miss out if you listen to the show and the archives. You'll hear Ion. I'm presenting Ion all the time, and I'm asking just as good questions as you could ask, so you can benefit from it.
So what established that Ion was gone?
So you're faking being lost, Clyde. You're not lost. You're pretending, Ion's gone away, and we've been engaging Ion constantly, and you got yourself in a little rabbit hole here.
So what does that mean he's gone?
He just isn't performing. We have people are trying to kill me, so Ion is working overtime to protect me. You hadn't got time to be distracted by little people's questions. Oh, you don't believe that, do you?
I'm not a person to really judge anything, so.
Well, then you're not a person. A person judges. A person thinks.
It's not that I believe it or not. It's more that I'm just observing.
No, got to be judging. That's a big bias of our time. People going around, you know why they think they're not observing? Because they don't know they're living through other bodies, and they're just thinking of their chemical body, and that's pretty retarded, the chemical body. It hasn't got a entry into communication at all. It's been sidelined. So you think you're observing. No, you're dead. You've been sidelined.
Also, when I was first calling in all the time, I bought 2 of this sample RNA containers.
Yeah.
And the first one, I went through the first one, and then I've had a second one, and I haven't even touched it until a few days ago. I just put 2 drops, and then I haven't really went back to it since then. But I think I might go back to that a little bit. Because
good. We're all for that.
Yeah. I feel like that was a good time in my life during that substance use.
Yeah.
And I'm also interested in the other supplements that your bride provides, the magnesium and stuff. I'm getting more involved in have you heard of Ayurveda? Ayurveda?
Yes, Ayurveda. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just starting to get into that. I'm not really.
It's puny compared to us. All those things are puny compared to us. But you can go in there to loosen up your mind. But you must be prepared to leave those systems.
They're obsolete.
So Carolyn just got, Clyde, Carolyn's, her book, Magnesium Miracle, just got released in China.
Really?
Yep. Chinese translation is only 2 English words in the book. I looked at it. 2 English words. Carolyn Dean. All the rest is fucking chicken scrawl. They call that a language. No fucking way. What?
Subgenies.
What did you say, Roxy? Subgenies. Yeah, subgenie scratching. It's Chinese. I can just see it. I was just fantasizing last night. I said, shit, we're going to be invited to go speak at Shanghai, or she is, or Peking, or Beijing. And I just suddenly thought, okay, I'm standing around with these Chinese people, and they're trying to make conversation with me. Didn't look good. Looked pretty stultified. I think I said, no, I won't go. But I got to go, right? I've never been there.
Yeah.
I hate the place, but you got to go, right, to get the opportunity just to say you've been there. Not going to be pleasant. I know these, and I immediately had this idea there'd be nothing but spies all around us. All these guys will be pretending to be friendly, and we know they're all fucking working for the elders in the mountain.
They want the formula, but they don't have iron.
Yeah, that's right. They want the formula. They fucking actually shot at me. Some guy got so pissed off I wouldn't give the formula, he shot me. He must have been shocked when he saw the bullet go through me, and he just probably ran away. He probably killed himself. It's probably Ben. Ben did it. From now on, anybody dies associated with us, they're attempted assassins. That's what they are. What?
I was just talking to somebody who had lived in China for 6 years, 2 nights ago. And she said that people will reverse on the highway. They'll just put their flashes on and just reverse. She said something that was so poignant.
Reverse.
She said something so poignant she didn't even know what she was saying. She said, everybody over there, it's so ironic because it's so, there's so many people there, but they all act like they're the only person there. And so they'll just reverse in the middle of the highway, she said, like in an interstate setting.
And get away
I
with
thought that was crazy. Yeah, it's okay there.
Well, that's good to know.
So watch out for that, Bob. If you've got spies, you can just reverse.
Yeah, what would be the anti-environment to that? What could I say to them? The guy thinks he's alone.
Just hovercraft.
I'll whisper to him and go, hey. Yeah, I'm going to go over and whisper to him. I'm going to say, hey, is there someone else in this room besides you? That's what I'll say to him. Is there someone else in this room? In other words, I'm with him. I agree that he's the only one here, but I'm a bit concerned because it looks like there's someone else in the room. I'll have to say it in Chinese, though. They're certainly not going to learn English. We're a minority culture to them. Well, let's get into some meat.
Yes.
Go ahead. Tell him what? What?
Yeah, like you said cosmic awareness said there is no real people. They're only like meat hamburgers.
Dave Worcester said that.
Like you were saying in there. Why?
Yeah, Dave.
Hamburgers.
Dave Worcester said he never considered anybody around him real. He'd gone Chinese. Turned Chinese.
Yes. Even if you are surrounded by millions, there is nobody there.
Yeah.
There's nobody there. Okay, so here's a guy that treated people like that. This is December 18th, 2015, article by Sam Roberts, Licio Gelli, Italian financier and cabal leader, dies at 96. Now, have you ever seen the phrase cabal leader in a headline about somebody? No. That's conspiracy theory. But this is the New York Times. They knew he was a cabal leader. He was the only one around. He had cornered the market. It says, Licio Gelli, a buccaneering Italian financier and self-professed fascist who was implicated in terrorist crimes, scandals, and a secret society that, with him as his grand master, was accused of plotting a right-wing coup. He died on Tuesday at his villa in Arezzo, Italy. He was 96. His death was reported by the nation's news media, and his funeral on Thursday, attended mostly by family and friends, was covered by Italian television. They fucking covered him. Mr. Gelli never wavered in his convictions. Now, this is a guy who tried to take over. He killed people. He killed he killed the Pope. You know, the third Godfather movie is about Licio Gelli. The third movie, where it's about the 30-day Pope that gets killed, there's a character who plays Licio Gelli. It's based on a British book, the Protestant gangs, attacking the Vatican in God's name. So here's this guy, killed the Pope, everything, and they still had to televise and show respect to him. All right? So this is a guy who knew how to use his words. Mr. Gelli never wavered in his convictions. In a 2008 television interview, he declared, quote, I was born under fascism, I studied with fascism, I fought for fascism, I am a fascist, and I will die a fascist, unquote. This guy is pretty bold, eh? Now, this is the guy who sent me to find someone, and I found LaRouche in 1966. You can look at my diaries. I think about May 1966. You'll hear my conversation. Read my conversation with Gelli. I identify him as a well-known European businessman. I don't say who he is. It says, his near-mythic ignominy, so that's Rumpelstiltskin, his near-mythic ignominy evoked popular fictional conspiracy tales, like Dan Brown's novel, The Da Vinci Code. Did you know that The Da Vinci Code, this huge success, was about my fucking master, Licio Gelli? Oh. No wonder it's all about me.
No.
And I could never tell a little kid who's reading it. If I told them that's about me and my buddy, they would not believe me.
The real Da Vinci Code is in Chambord. That's the real Da Vinci Code, the real.
Yeah.
And I made the blueprint for that fucking castle. We just found out. It's my code. It's right here on the wall. Chad recognized it. Did you hear that? Chad recognizes the symbols. that he got in dreams that he sent to us.
Wow, that's great.
You heard that?
Yes.
Like Dan Brown's novel.
It all loops back.
So, no, go. What'd you say? Several words said there.
Yeah, I was asking about that. I was asking about was that something you played earlier, or talking about?
Yes, this is way back there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's talked about it many times, but I didn't tell him they're in the castle. But he was listening to what Ian said, and then he said, I looked at the video or whatever, because I recognized the symbols. He knows it on his own, and I didn't tell him. I had not told him. And then I said, well, Chad, that's what Ian said. As a matter of fact, the legend of him and Angela going to the castle in Ireland, that's on the early tailgates. You hear people talking to Chad. Chad has left Vancouver. He's met this woman, Angela. She takes him to a castle. Well, very quickly after Roxy discovered the Chambord Castle, Ion said, that's the castle that Angela and Chad were looking for or were in or something, whatever they were hallucinating. It was connected to Chambord, either Chateau de Beauregard or Beauregard or
Zappa,
Chambord.
Frank Zappa said he was, if he would reincarnate as somebody else, he would like to come as Fulcanelli. And Fulcanelli was actually trying to understand their code, because he was into studying all these big cathedrals, all the castles, and all the directions and all these things.
Were you just reading that lately, or you do that for what? Was he doing that lately, or you read that years ago?
No, I knew about Fulcanelli and the cathedrals and the Masons and all this. And
do you agree that he lived in the 20th century?
Well, it's like Ian says, there is not 20th century. He's maybe here and there.
But the Fulcanelli, you look up Fulcanelli, he's a guy who lived 100 years ago. And the problem is, I asked the Evergreens years ago about Fulcanelli, and they said he lived about 1650 or something, and he was one of the few people that successfully made lead into gold. So there's two Fulcanellis in my mind. I don't know who's who.
No, I suppose it's the same one, but
the more recent one.
He couldn't do the parallel world stuff.
Right. Okay, so let's go on here. His near-mythic ignominy evoked popular fictional conspiracy tales like Dan Brown's novel The Da Vinci Code and the movie The Godfather Part 3, and he personified what Italians encapsulate as dietrologia. Dietrologia, dietrologia. The reflexive, widely held suspicion that behind any official government narrative lurks a more sinister explanation. That's dietrologia, the logic of diet. The reflexive, widely held suspicion that behind any official government narrative lurks a more sinister explanation. He is the personification of that. Then it says, but if Mr. Jelly was a scoundrel to many Italians, to others he held out the promise of stability in turbulent times, when the Communist Party was advancing at the polls and the economy was declining. He exerted much of his influence as leader of a Kabbalistic breakaway Masonic lodge known as Propaganda Due, or P2, which the Freemasons had officially dissolved. The authorities said hundreds of government, business, and military leaders had joined the lodge, defying Italy's ban on secret societies. Investigators linked the group to plots to destabilize the Italian state, to blame leftists for unrest, and to foment a right-wing coup during the years of lead, that's in quote, years of lead, when Italy was besieged by terrorist attacks. That'd be in the 70s. The group was suspected of trying to discredit communists by thwarting the rescue of former Prime Minister Aldo Moro, who was kidnapped and murdered in 1978 by leftist Red Brigade's guerrillas. P2 was believed to have had a hand in the horrific bombing of a Bologna train station in 1980 that left 85 dead, and that was generally attributed to another neo-fascist group. And the P2 was investigated in 1982 in the death of Roberto Calvi, a lodge member who was called God's banker because of his financial ties to the Vatican's bank. Mr. Calvi's body was found hanging from Blackfriars Bridge in London. A suicide, the authorities ruled. Mr. Jelly was convicted of bank fraud and obstruction of justice. He was convicted several times in the 80s. He'd end up in prison, I think one time in Switzerland. He always escaped, and he'd go down to Uruguay. And then he'd come back and turn himself in, and he'd escape again. This guy always got out of jail. So they say Mr. Jelly was convicted of bank fraud and obstruction of justice. He mysteriously escaped from prison or house arrest twice and served the remainder of his term in his villa, a 30-room redoubt near a 15th century church in the Tuscan Hills. So he didn't spend his time under house arrest. I mean, well, maybe that's kind of a house arrest, but they're saying he's in his villa. There he was found to have a gold thumb when nearly $2 million in bullion was discovered in 1998 in his terrace garden, hidden in terracotta flower pots beneath begonias and geraniums. $2 million in gold. In God's Banker, in God's Banker, yes, the book that the third Godfather is based on.
A lot of croissants.
A lot of RNA drops. In God's Banker, his 1983 biography of Mr. Kelvey, Rupert Cornwell wrote, quote, Italy, it must be recorded with honesty, albeit bemusement, has produced few more remarkable individuals this century than Licio Gelli. So the guy who wrote the book on Calvi, Rupert Cornwell, said that in the book called God's Banker. Mr. Gelli, pronounced Jelly, was born on April 21st, 1919 in Pistoia, north of Florence in Tuscany. He married the former Wanda Vanacci. She died in 1993, and their three children, Raffaello, Maria Rosa, and Maurizio, survive him, as does his second wife, the former Gabrielle Vasili. In brackets, another daughter died in an automobile accident. Probably was payback time with somebody. Another daughter died in an automobile accident. Mr. Jelly joined Benito Mussolini's fascist black shirts in fighting for Generalissimo Francisco Franco in Spain's Civil War in the 1930s. He served as an Italian liaison to Nazi Germany during World War II, then switched sides to support communist partisans in his native Pistoia province. You see that? He worked with everybody. Nazis, communists, secret societies. He was a good friend of the Secret Council of Ten. After the war, he fled to Argentina, where he became a confidant of the dictator Juan Perón. Returning to Italy, he became successful as a financier and self-made industrialist manufacturing mattresses. Who uses mattresses? Mafia, right? When they start having their fight, they say, we had to take to the mattresses. Right? So he's supplying the furniture for gang warfare. Mr. Jelly emerged into the public eye in 1981. He emerged into the public eye in 1981 as Italian investigators were focusing on Mr. Calvi, the guy who hung in the bank in England, who had presided over the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano, Italy's largest private bank. You'll see Zappa writes about Banco Ambrosiano in the play Them or Us. So Calvi presided over that bank, and they were focusing on Calvi and on Michela Sindona, who Mae Brussel did a lot on, another banker who had been accused in the failure of the Franklin National Bank in the United States. Mr. Sindona was later convicted of murder and was himself murdered by poisoning in prison. And a great rock critic, Nick Tosh, wrote a book on Michela Sindona, if you want to look that up. Nick Tosh is legendary like Lester Banks. Searching for the names of businessmen. As a matter of fact, one day I was down in the Tribeca, where I think Robert, who's the mafia guy in the movies? Scorsese, Robert
De Niro.
Who plays the mafia guy?
De Niro.
What is it?
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro. Very near his place. I went to visit a psychiatrist, and I was looking for his doorbell in the apartment building, the first floor, and there it said Nick Tosh. I found out where Nick Tosh lived. Very impressive in my little world that I found it. Anyways, Nick Tosh, look him up, Tosches. Very good writer. But he got to hang out with Sindona for many months and wrote the book on him and then witnessed him being murdered. Okay, so maybe Nick Tosh murdered Sindona. So we're talking about searching for the So the investigators were searching for the names of businessmen who had illegally exported cash. The investigators found instead, in a leather suitcase in Mr. Jelly's mattress factory, evidence of what amounted to a right-wing shadow government composed of 962 power brokers led by Mr. Jelly. The group, they said, sought to, quote, exert an anonymous and surreptitious control, unquote, of the country. Now, let me tell you, this is what pissed May Brussels off. When Reagan had his inauguration ball in January 1981, when he came in as president first term, guess who the guest of honor was? Licio Jelly. Why would he be a guest of honor in an American presidency national thing? That's the power of the Secret Council of 10. I'm pretty sure I ordered the Reagan staff to let Mr. Jelly in. Of course, I don't remember. And that reminds me, that may be why I don't fucking remember everything. I've done so many bad things, I best not remember anything. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who am I talking to right now? Why am I speaking?
You are talking to the initiate.
I'm talking without an audience.
The mystery of Falconelli.
Yes, I'm in the mystery landscape. Falconelli. Okay. The roster, so this group, 962 power brokers led by Mr. Jelly, the roster included Mr. Calvi and Mr. Sindona, both killed, whom the authorities described as puppets of Mr. Jelly, and they were enlisted to help impose what the group called, quote, a plan for democratic rebirth. When so many government ministers and other officials were revealed to be members of the lodge, Prime Minister Arnaldo Forlani's government fell. His successor declared that Italy was facing a moral emergency. Mr. Jelly was arrested in Geneva in 1982 on charges of passport fraud. The authorities said he had gone there to withdraw millions of dollars from his Swiss accounts. A year later, just as he was about to be extradited to Italy to face charges involving the Bologna bombing, they were really going to get to him, nail him. The bank in charges involving the Bologna bombing, the bank failure, and financing right-wing terrorism, he escaped from a Swiss prison hospital with a guard's help and fled to South America. He returned to Switzerland 4 years later in 1987 and was extradited to Italy under extraordinary security. Mr. Jelly was absolved of any association with the Bologna bombing, but sentenced to 5 years in prison for obstructing the investigation and 18 and a half years for his role in the Banco Ambrosiano fraud. In brackets, his Swiss accounts have been linked to more than $1 billion that the bank was missing. So listen to what I'm describing. This guy was given a state funeral, okay? He later received a 17-year sentence on obstruction charges in a political conspiracy case involving 15 other P2 members. You can remember that. While he was in jail, he still could fucking bribe judges to help his buddies in their trials. But they pretended to nail him. Mr. Jelly was, quote, a man of Nero, like Nero, the emperor of Rome, was a man of Neronic wealth and ways. As the writer Nick Tosh described him in the book Power on Earth, we have it right here, his 1986 biography of Mr. Sindona. But Mr. Jelly's lawyer, Raphael Giorgetti, suggested on Thursday that his client had merely been a scapegoat for Bob Dobbs' own fucking failings. Now, there it is. There's my name. I did not know. That would be there. It's there. Nobody fucking investigates me. They don't investigate me.
They just try to kill you.
All right, since you can't believe that, I will.
Of course.
What did you say? What did you say, Roxy?
Of course.
Yes, I will now edit that. We will now read it the way you would like to believe it. But Mr. Jelly's lawyer, Raphael Giorgetti, suggested on Thursday that his client had merely been a scapegoat in brackets, for the government's own failings. Well, you tell me, where's the difference? What's the difference between the secret society and the government? Most of the lodge members escape punishment. Now, this is a good one. The actual Archbishop, Paul Marcinkus, got nailed in all this. Marcinkus, you go back and listen to May Brussels' tapes, recordings in 82, 83, 84, when this was happening, man, she was so pissed. Most of the lodge members escape punishment. Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, who was from a small town in in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, which was the hometown of Al Capone. So he came from Al Capone land to take over the Vatican, to run its bank. Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, who was president of the Vatican's bank, was indicted as an accessory in the Banco Ambrosiano collapse. Citing diplomatic immunity, the Vatican refused to comply with an Italian arrest warrant for the Archbishop, but it paid more than $200 million to Banco Ambrosiano's creditors. So they paid for Marcinkus' freedom. Mr. Jelly, placed under house arrest because of ill health, slipped away again in 1998. He was arrested 4 months later in Cannes, France, and because of his physical condition was allowed to resume his confinement at his villa in Arezzo. He survived there for another 17 years, completing his sentence in the meantime. So the guy pretended he was sick. Now, in 1988, so he was arrested in 83. He was in jail in 83, 82, 83. He escapes, comes back in 87. And you know what he does in 1987 before he goes back to jail? He runs for a member of the European Parliament.
Oh.
So have you ever heard of a character like that? Not that. You have not heard that kind of above it all, above suspicion, a citizen above suspicion.
Insight.
See a movie. Insights? You've got many insights from this?
Well, yes, I mean, from the beginning, from the title that he's in the leader of the cabal. So it's like he's working with the synarchy.
Yes, he's working with it. Oh, yeah, his name will show up in those synarchy articles. Never, with this article, you can prove that there is a conspiracy going on. Just this article. This guy's involved with so many fucking issues that 2 or 3 of them are going to prove that there's a conspiracy or a cover-up. So he's the key guy, and he's the only businessman named in my diaries, which were written 25 years ago. So there I was, prophetically. I had the right guy, right? Mr. Jelly assigned me to find a man like LaRouche, and we found LaRouche, and he was the Vatican's agent in the radical student movement. But that's all water under the bridge now, isn't it? We're in a new world, new dimension.
Yes.
None of us are going to die. And Mr. Jelly is just another little man with huge pomposities. All right? Are we okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we end this topic? Can we dispense with this disgusting topic?
I was thinking again about Fulcanelli and, for example, in the Mysteries of the Cathedral, he goes through all the symbols in these buildings, trying to decode what Bob put in all these buildings.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because he says, for example, the cross represents the life, like already in Egypt, the yank was a symbol of life. And from this cross,
right,
the stone is created. So for me, the stone will be then the magnesium, and the chromosome 14 will be the cross. But, I mean, they might talk about the symbols, but they could not go into the deeper meaning of what Ion is saying, what they really mean.
Right. Correct. Nobody in history has known this, except for ascended people. I just allowed 2 anonymouses to come in. Is that you, Bert? Did you get knocked off?
Yes. Skype cut off 4 hours.
Yeah. Do you want to say something?
No, I wanted Roxana to finish what she was just stating. Yeah, he's an interesting character. But you know, right? You're right, Bob.
Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to give an example of sarcophage in a castle called Saint-Germain-de-la-Laye. It's also La Loire near Paris.
What is it? What's the name of the place?
Like a stone coffin, Saint-Germain-de-la-Laye.
Okay.
And there is a coffin with an ankh. They don't have a cross, but an ankh. And in many of the buildings of that area, there's a lot of Egyptian hermetic symbols. But I guess, yeah, they all have to do with Bob, with the architect.
Yes, the special Loire Valley PTA, Parents Teachers Association, was their front. They'd have meetings ostensibly to discuss their kids' homework, and they were planning coups and murders and assassination attempts on me and my buddies.
Yes, yeah, and all these things have been there forever, and there is a lot of secret societies around this knowledge of the symbols and
right. That's what hit me. Was like how much
it's a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know that? Did you use that online? All the secret societies into this Martin stuff?
Fulcanelli.
No, Alyssa. Did you find a bunch of secret societies, Alyssa?
No, but when I was looking into stuff about Chambord and throughout, just my time learning about you, and before that I was kind of learning about, just how you start learning about conspiracies and then you figure out which ones are real, which ones aren't. And the Chambord Castle kind of made me think about just some of these people that have come up, early ancient people that knew some of this stuff. Like the knowledge has been there and then it disappears and then it's there and then...
Yeah.
Or, it doesn't really disappear, but you know what I mean.
Son said ancient days. That's a key term in Ion's language. Did you hear him say ancient days? Ancient days. He mentioned it.
Yeah.
Ancient of days, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Ionic to say that. But anyway, so you saw these conspiracies. So what's the point here, Alyssa? Okay, so there are lots of conspiracies, but what...
No, that's not my point. My point is that when I was... Just briefly when I've been looking into the castle, Roxy, didn't you say that people had known about it before?
Well, there are all these groups trying to understand what they mean, but there's also the ascended that really know how to part the world and what they really meant.
So what are you saying, Alyssa?
I'm saying it's interesting to consider who has known the big notes, the big song for longer and hidden it. It's playing, I guess, maybe with time a little bit, but I feel like there's more that Ion is starting to reveal about the big picture. Yes.
Yep. You'll hear today's content. We got some more. It's getting more preposterous. What happened is that in the period we call the Dark Ages, I managed to fucking dismantle the fucking church, the Republic of Peter. And then I gave it back to them. And Ian says, we don't know why you did that, Bob, but you gave it back to them. Even I was pissed out. What was the point, Bob? You dismantle it, and then you give it back to them. And then they built up power, and then in 1400 I decided to dismantle them again. And that was harder. That took longer. We're still in the middle of it right now.
We're still in the middle of it now?
And For me, it's also amazing to find these similarities with what the Hermetic alchemists and the secret societies were talking about the stone, about finding the elixir, the real medicine.
Yeah.
Right.
And they also have all the symbols. That's why I was so impressed with Chambord. For example, they talk about the R and the prefix re, and they say that means half of one thing. And when you put it to something, then it's like you are augmenting that thing. So like
amending,
giving it more.
What's that word?
Augmenting.
Augmenting.
Yeah. And what are we augmenting?
So you're giving it some, like the power. Well, you use this re-mac, re-bob, everywhere.
Yeah.
And the R's and the re are also in the cathedrals and in the castles.
I see.
So there are many, really many symbols. Maybe I'll go back to read the book and look for the symbols and then the translation that I will do with the Ionic.
Right. So Roxy, Lisa, has looked at this stuff in depth and was shocked at the Ionic symbols and parallels and everything. You know that.
Like,
you understand that, right?
Yeah, like the tower in the middle, the double helix, and all these different things.
But she's giving us some new stuff, like the repeating of the R-E of rebob.
Oh, really?
You like
I didn't
the R-E.
Yes, because you use the
syllable R-E.
The remark.
Right.
Yeah, or so there are many.
Where is the R-E?
Coincidences in the buildings. There are there are many things that look like decorations, but it's not only decoration.
Right. Is it in like a border on the ceiling or on doors or what?
They can be anywhere in the ceilings, in the walls, in decorations, in the furniture, in the fabrics.
This stuff converted Roxy to Iondom. She has no doubt now, after going through this hologram of the Loire Valley, that Ion is pretty legitimate. That's what happened to Roxy over the past few weeks.
Yeah. But you already thought Ion was legitimate. It's just reached another level, right?
Yes, it validates the labyrinth of her mind. But I'm sure we'll do things that will upset that.
Nothing is holding.
Nothing is permanent here.
It won't hold for too long.
We will go through it.
But it's
we will go through a phase where. What?
It's a type of
entertainment, right?
Entertainment.
That's right.
To look for the eggs hidden, and look for the
yes, I'm sure we'll go through a phase.
Castle.
I'm sure we'll go through a phase where Ian will confess that it's all JW's ramblings and Bob's a liar, Carol's a liar, and we all bullshit for years. I'm sure we'll have to go through that phase. And then
Bob, I want to say that the Lucio Jelly. I wanted to say one more thing about the Lucio Jelly article. It's interesting that there was an admission of him being connected to the conspiracy that most folks have read about in his obituary, in that article you just read. What did he start? He was a cabal leader. That's sort of like giving an answer hidden out in plain sight, but most people will miss it anyway because they're still looking for the conspiracy instead of moving beyond it.
Yeah, they don't believe that they can know the conspiracy.
Yeah.
But that's pretty good for my resume that I've got Jelly in my diary years ago, and then he's the only guy called a cabal leader. You know, that's pretty good validation to me.
Yeah, your timeline is amazing if you just look into it. It's amazing, the loop.
I was thinking now
everything that's taking
about
place.
what you said. What you said that everything is going to be just like a performance. But it's like you have been doing this performance for so many years. It's like, what a complex performance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I even killed the guff, so you can't. I even wiped out the place that you could die to. I mean, that's an amazing achievement. I basically got rid of death.
I was also thinking that the alchemy is called alchemy, the great art, and now you come and are talking a lot about art, and the great art, the great work, is actually the environment, and it's not just chemistry. But there is also
it's not Campbell's soup
chemistry.
It's not Warhol's Campbell's soup can. It's not Duchamp's fountain. No. It is this technology that links us right now.
You are obsoleting the Vatican, and it's like the Church of Petrus. Petrus means stone.
Oh, yes,
so
right.
You are
Peter.
replacing
That's
that.
Right. Well, that was the pun that Jesus made. He said, "Upon this rock I will build my church," and he was talking about Peter as a rock, and his name meant rock.
Yes. But then that was not the right stone. It was not that stone that is going to give you the completion and the real transition and the real blood.
Just a minute, Alyssa. What was I supposed to email you?
I was trying
to get the bill stuff, the Skype. I have to send that, right?
Yeah, I think you just have. I don't know. Does someone have to accept my request for me to call in, or no?
No. What does that mean?
Because I'm
going to call. What do you mean? You call in all the time.
No, I know, but to call through Skype on the Payday.
Skype. No, that's what I've got. I'm sending you Bill's Skype instructions.
Okay, that's it.
I don't know if they're easily understandable, but he gave them to me. I've given them to people, and they never complain. So here it comes.
Okay.
Here it is. It gives the 3 ways to do it or something. Okay. Okay, so what do we do next? Do we read the freak-out names? Do we play some Zappa? What is it we could play? Audio? Did you send some more audio, Roxy?
Just to close this section, in which we were talking about this new type of orchestras that were beyond just the music. They were environments. And they started with Mozart, and then Zappa and Sonra are replaying the Mozart thing by revolting against the corporation and the media. They do what they want to do. They want to do their thing. And there is one of the first songs of Sun Ra with his orchestra was the Deep Purple, which is Your Color, and then there is this the group Deep Purple took their name from the Sun Ra song, and they did the hit about the fire that happened in Montreux, and in which Zappa lost all his equipment.
Sorry.
So maybe just to close this,
equipment.
There is a video with the song of Deep Purple, which is really early Sun Ra. So it's like, you don't believe that's Sun Ra, but that's Sun Ra. And then there is another video with Zappa talking about the fire. Yeah, and if you like, you can play the hit by Deep Purple. Fire in the sky.
Right. What? I don't see. You sent it in an email, right? Oh, wait.
Yeah, maybe they're in different.
I have it. So what kind of synthesizer?